we go. It is the daily puck drop here. It's Wednesday, February 19th. You're wondering, where is the stupid Let's Do It Live video? You want to know why? I forgot to put it in there, and now I'm scrambling to find it. It's one of those mornings. But you know what? Without further ado, we can't start a show. We can't do it without Bill O'Reilly.
I can't do it.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
Damn right.
We'll do it live.
F you, Bill.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah, damn right.
Thing sucks.
All right, here we go on today's Daily Puck Drop. It is Wednesday, February 19th. If you are watching live, thank you so much on YouTube, on Twitter. You can also listen to the show live as well on the Puck Sports mobile app. That's right, we've got a mobile app, both for iOS users and for Android users. Go to the iOS store and download the Puck Sports mobile app today. You can listen to the show live, also from the Google Play Store if you have an Android phone. All right, and if you are later in the afternoon, and you're wondering, oh, you can do this live? Yeah, you sure can. And you can do it on a bunch of different platforms, as I just mentioned. I mean, we're everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Puck Sports mobile app. We also have got so you have options at 10 o'clock, by the way, and I'm hearing that most people are very happy to have options at 10 o'clock. You can also later, if you're watching or listening to this live, in case you miss anything, the entire show of the Daily Puck Drop gets up on YouTube. When you're at YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Please share it. Please rate it. Please leave any comments. I try to get back as many comments as I possibly can. And then on the podcasts on Apple and Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, whatever your favorite podcast platform is, available there as well. The full show every single day. And when you're there, same deal. Please, please, please. It helps the overall Puck Sports brand. Please leave a comment, write a review, I should say, and leave a rating. As you can see, on the rundown, number 2 is Jim's moving to Canada. Apparently, he's already started. Normally, Jim would be here on Wednesday, but I don't know what's going on. I think his internet doesn't work. So if you're playing the game at home over-under on how many times Jim is on the show per week, it's usually about one time that he's on the show. Some issue is going on with his internet down there, apparently, or he doesn't know how to set it up. I don't know. But it doesn't look like he is going to be on the show today. So, again, here's the thing. Is there ever going to be a week where he actually makes all of the shows? And if I'm Clean Streak and I'm Brian Turner, I want my money back. By the way, if he were here, he would be brought to you by a Clean Streak. Shout out Brian Turner, a professional window and exterior cleaning service. That's right, Blake. It's just the typical, my God. Exactly right, Blake. It is my God. For the guy who claims he was never late on the radio. We are, of course, broadcasting from the Puck Sports Studios. It is built by Limbeck Lumber. They've got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. They've got the largest stock moldings in the Northwest. They've got old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbecklumber.com. Follow the show. Follow me on all the social media platforms. Puck Sports on Twitter and X, and also on Blue Sky as well. We do video clips all the time. It's Puck_sports on TikTok. You can also find us on Facebook at Puck Sports there as well. All right. What do we got here? Todd Olson says, what's up? The chat is always going on as well when you are watching it live on Twitter and on YouTube. So if you'd like to participate in the chat, you can. Todd Olson, he's always there. Richard Granger, he's always there as well. He's checking in. We appreciate everybody that is checking in today. Joel That's right. Vegas did set the line on shows per week for Jim at 1.5. I'm starting to think maybe we just set it at a half. I don't know. What do you think? Do we give him an extra bonus if he can actually make it over to 1? And then Jeff says, well, Friday's show will be awesome with his explanation. Most likely, I will not be doing a show on Friday. We got the Ballard gymnastics team, which my daughter is a part of, is in the state championship. And it starts on Thursday. They do like the team stuff, the all around. And then Friday is like the individual events. I'm not going to bore you with all the details and why it doesn't make sense how they do this. But, and again, like the individual stuff, like people who just qualify for the floor or just qualify for the beam will go on Friday. Again, I said I wasn't going to explain this. Now I'm explaining it. Thursday, it starts at 12:45. So I'm going to do the show tomorrow. The Friday show, it's early in the morning. It starts at 10. And she will qualify for a number of events on Friday. And so I won't do a show on Friday because it starts at 10. So, hey, I love you guys. I love talking to you every single day. But here's the deal. I love my daughter a little bit more. So I'm going to go watch her and her fantastic Ballard gymnastics team try to go capture their first ever state championship coming up Thursday and Friday at Sammamish High School. By the way, shout out to the Ballard gymnastics team. I mentioned this yesterday. Only the third time in the history of that high school has a team won a district championship. And they are, I think, the first time since, I think it's 2006. So congratulations to them. It was there as a team, first district championship as a gymnastics team. So there we go. Get that out of the way. And I think there's a story on the Seattle Times coming out tomorrow on two of their leaders on their team, two twins who lead the team. I think it's coming out tomorrow. At least that's what I was told, but we'll see. All right, so we got Jim moving to Canada. We were going to get into that because he wrote a Substack piece, Jim Moore, the go-to guy, Substack.com, and where he was explaining why he took so much heat from people on his stance the other day on Canada and the Canadians booing the national anthem, and then the reaction from Team USA. And I pointed out to him in a tweet, he wrote a whole column on two people complaining to him. It was two people that gave him shit on social media. If you'd like to go read that again, Substack, you can follow Jim. You can subscribe there. Jim Moore, the go-to guy at Substack.com. A rematch is coming up tomorrow. The ratings will be bonanza for it. They'll just be huge. And for me, who, again, we talked about this yesterday, guy who's not really interested in it, didn't know much about it. I mean, for sure, it's going to get me, and I bet it's going to get a lot of you casual viewers to want to check in. You factor in any sport. I don't care what it is. When you've got country pride on the line, it's just massively different. It just is. I thought if you guys watched the gold medal game last year in basketball, that was some of the best basketball I've ever seen. Ever seen. Because despite your issues with whatever country you're in, when you put it on, you're playing for them. And there is a pride to that. There is a patriotism to that. And you saw it on display. No one wants to lose, and you saw that on display in the Olympics with Team USA against France. It's one of the best basketball games I've ever seen, ever. And I think it's going to be the anticipation, I think, for tomorrow, the success of it, sport that still is to this day for the masses trying to get a footing in the market, and move themselves up that ladder. I think tomorrow's going to be really cool. You go back to the Olympics in I'm going to blank. Is it not 16 or is it 12 or 10? Whenever they played in Vancouver. I'm blanking on the year. When the gold medal figures for that, where it was like 35 million people. It was stupid. It was, I think, the second most watched gold medal game since the 80s, since the Miracle on Ice. So tomorrow is not going to reach that. It's not going to reach that because we have more channels now. And listen, 1980, you could do it because there's like 3 channels. So if one thing was on, everyone's going to watch that. But tomorrow's going to be cool. It's going to be real cool. And I would expect it here. It's going to be interesting. You boo it there because it's in Boston. You boo it there. What's the reaction going to be from American fans versus Canadian fans? I mean, there are friendly neighbors to the north. God, let's take it easy, everyone. And so we'll see what the reaction is going to be on that one. Also coming up on the show today, Rob Staton. We'll talk NFL draft. We'll talk offseason with Rob like we do every single week, brought to you by Superior Linen Service. And Rob is written, I'm telling you, he's got 3 pieces up there on offseason on the defensive line, offensive line, and the quarterbacks. When I say they're a lengthy read, it's an understatement. Rob, if you're watching or listening right now, I don't know how much time you have in the day, sir, to write all that stuff. But it is a lengthy read, and I would check it out. He is incredible as how much content he puts up related to your Seattle Seahawks. So SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Ryan Divish, we just finished up, about an hour or so ago, Divish and I, 50 minutes of just baseball banter. Garbage trucks in the background, a bird chirping. The first, I think, 2 minutes of the video, you don't see him. You hear him, but you don't see him. The full 50-minute podcast and the interview there with Divish will be available for Puck's Posse members. And again, if you want to sign up, it's just $5 a month, and you get a discount for a year. Any troubles financially, reach out to me directly. Always will take care of you. Puck@pucksports.com. In addition to getting the full 50-minute Divish, we'll play about an 18-minute version, free version of it today during the show. So you'll get that. And it's the good 18-minute, chunk. I mean, well, actually, it's not the best part of it, but there's some good stuff in there. We talk Cal Raleigh. We talk why has there not been a contract extension talk yet with Cal, and the overall situation with the infield. We've got the thoughts on the fans' frustration, and also Dan Wilson now entering his first full season as the Mariners manager. So we'll play that coming up after we talk to Rob Staton coming up at the bottom of the hour. And, of course, we wrap up everything with Hey, What the Puck. What else do we got to get to? Oh, I think we've covered it all. Oh, we'll get to the Bruce Harrell is it putts. If you haven't seen the Bruce Harrell thing yet, I would imagine most people have. And before we get to Bruce Harrell, it ties in perfectly to the conversation we had yesterday with Tim Booth of the Associated Press. He's worked there for so long. Tim Booth of the Seattle Times. And we talked about NBA and expansion and how far is it away and what's the deal with Seattle and why was there no buzz from the All-Star weekend. As Tim pointed out, he was down there for the Seattle Times. He covered it. He was going down there in anticipation of writing a story about expansion, about what Adam Silver had to say, and then never got the opportunity to ask a question because the NBA, media and the PR machine chickened out and allowed 9 questions, all to national media people. And those national media people, for some reason, were more. And I'm trying to figure out who asked the question. Honestly, it was one of the. I don't want to say dumb. I just didn't understand the question of the reporter, and I think it was a pretty prominent NBA guy where, apparently he wanted to know, do you think it's bad for the league that Luka got traded to the Lakers and it gutted one franchise? First of all, the Lakers are the Mount Rushmore, number one. So the game's biggest superstar, one of them going to one of the league's best teams is not a bad thing for the league. And we're talking about the Dallas Mavericks. And it's a trade. He didn't step in and nix. He shouldn't step in and nix a trade or prevent a trade from happening. It's the two teams. They want to make a trade, let them make a trade. Anyways, but we had to get that. We couldn't ask about expansion. So Adam Silver never addressed it. And so Tim and I are talking yesterday on the show just about that experience down there, why expansion wasn't brought up. Is expansion now on the back burner? It ties into a piece from Howard Beck, if you haven't read it, from The Ringer, who did a series of stories this week about expansion. And the timeline that Howard Beck gave in his piece at The Ringer, not good. It just, the optimism did not sound good for expansion. It was a very much if you watch the SNL 50th anniversary where they did the Debbie Downer skit, it is that with the trombone. It was very Debbie Downer. And Tim said, hey, if the timeline keeps getting pushed here, we keep moving the goalpost like DePoto, when does the true fan apathy set in? And if that timeline is pushed even more, are there going to be people here that simply just check out?
Process plays out will be a tipping point for whether the NBA ever returns. If this gets dragged out to that point to where we're talking 2029, 2020, 2030 for when a team is actually come back, people are tired. People have waited. The fans that remember the Supersonics have waited 2 decades to hear that a team is coming back. I mean, you vastly diminish the chances of fans embracing it in the same way in a place like Seattle if that ends up being the timeline. If that's what happens, go to Mexico City. Go Vegas, Mexico City, Vegas, Kansas City, Vegas, Montreal, whatever you want to do. At that point, I think people are going to be pissed off and just kind of done with it.
There is Tim Booth from the Seattle Times yesterday talking about the timeline because, listen, you guys have got busy lives. You didn't see this. You probably didn't read the story, but we talked about it yesterday. Beck had just talked about the timeline. And again, Tim disagrees with it. And I'll side with Tim here a little bit because I want to be optimistic. I think the timeline that Howard put out there is a little too conservative. I think they certainly can ramp up a lot faster than that. But he said, hey, listen, if the process from where you start the expansion process to the finished product where that team is actually playing is 3 to 5 years. Now they haven't even started the expansion process yet. They hasn't even started it yet. And so Tim's point is if that is the case, and you're talking about you got that, you got the sale of the Celtics still need to be resolved. There's this talk about possibly starting a European league first and waiting for Curry and LeBron to retire to get that off the ground. Do we need to have LeBron retire first? Because we want, clearly, if they want to expand here domestically, it appears that it's Seattle and Vegas. Now, if LeBron wants to be in Vegas, you wait for him to retire so he's part of that ownership group. And now we're talking about a timeline. It's 2025. A lot of people still maintain that they feel 2027 is it. Okay, but if 2027 is the year, then it needs to get going now. And I think the problem that many of us have is this. Number one is from the league. That's number one, from the league. Because this carrot of the NBA has been dangled over this city for a decade. And recently in the last few years. Oh, it's coming back. What makes matters worse, and I'm not taking aim at these guys, and they've done a lot of great stuff, but what has made matters worse is with the group with the Kraken, and specifically Todd Lywicki, and specifically David, the late David Bonderman, and anyone associated with that organization. Because at every time they have done an interview, they maintain, no, don't worry about it. It's coming. Trust us. Okay, I'm going to trust you, but you have done every interview to the point where you have essentially said, no, we're getting the team, but you don't want to get in the way of the league of announcing when that date is. But trust us, it's coming. You can only trust someone, whether it's the Kraken ownership group, whether it's the NBA itself. You can only trust them for so long. And I agree with Tim's point that if you keep pushing this down the road, where then 2027 becomes 29, 30, 31, 32, I think even the hardcore people you're going to lose. Now, will those people come back? They will. Are you going to lose someone like me forever? No. I mean, I'm just going to be an eternal optimist, which is just surprising for me, that they will. Because I just, like I said yesterday, I just desperately want to see him back. But you'll have a lot of people that share this opinion that, one of our viewers in the chat does. Mickey Hill, Sonics are never coming back. Another guy, Connor, NBA's never coming back. And I think the responsibility of the league and the organization of the Kraken, who have at every turn and in every interview have assured this city that the league is coming back. If it doesn't, they sold you a bill of lies. Because part of the reason why that arena was built up there was because of the assurances that you were getting an NBA team. So it better come to fruition. It better come to fruition. Now, I'm going to hold out hope. I'm going to still believe them. It makes sense for them financially. But I don't want to hear about them, 10 years from now going, well, it didn't work out, but we've got hockey. That wasn't the promise. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people that signed up for those hockey tickets signed up because they thought the NBA was coming back to them. And I know a lot of people who are my friends in my neighborhood, that's the sole reason they signed up. Because back then, there was the assurances that you were going to get priority on NBA tickets. So I think for both parties, it better come through. I don't think Mexico City is a real true option. I know others have brought that up. Dan, who's in our chat, brought that up. I don't think Mexico City is an option. I think there's too much outside stuff with putting a team in Mexico City. The NFL goes there, and the NFL just tells their players, don't leave your hotel. So I don't know if that's going to be, a viable home. The European League thing, it's not just an extension of the NBA. It's not like will be a separate league, or excuse me, like a league within the NBA that's playing in Europe. It's like a Euro League. They just wanted to have their own Euro League over there. So, I don't know. I just think that it's frustrating. I think for a lot of people, including myself, I'm frustrated with the league. Number one, that's what I'm frustrated with. I'm frustrated with the league, certainly more than anyone. And I think we all are, right? We are frustrated with them because we want this team to come back. All right, so then that leads me to yesterday when I watched this from Bruce Harrell. Okay? I'm not going to turn this in. Please don't turn this into being political. Okay? Because here's my deal. I don't care what side you're on. There are idiots everywhere, okay? There just are. They're just idiots on both sides. And case in point, this yesterday from Bruce Harrell. Now, you can tell me did you guys see this? Tell me if you can hear this. Sometimes I don't know if it's actually going through. But Bruce Harrell yesterday was addressing kind of like his State of the Union. And he thought this was going to be a good idea to do while addressing kind of the State of the Union.
Right now, at this moment, I have an announcement to make.
So he brought a basketball up.
I'm just kidding. I got you. Okay. This is a long speech. You had to bring it up a little bit here.
One of the dumbest things I have ever seen someone in politics do. Bruce Harrell is a fucking idiot for what he did yesterday. And the person who advised him to do that is an idiot. I mean, you want to talk about fucking being tone deaf? to a city. And this guy was an athlete. This guy claims to have grown up here, which he did, and have an understanding of what that basketball team meant to this city. And to pull out this stupid stunt where you pull out a basketball after the news kind of comes out, we talked about this yesterday, where expansion wasn't being talked about. What wasn't anything that was mentioned down in San Francisco there by Adam Silver. And you come out there and you pull out a basketball and you hear the reaction from the people. They're like, oh my God, he's got something to say. He has news. He knows. Because Bruce Harrell, first of all, I don't think Bruce Harrell knows jack shit about expansion at all. I think Bruce Harrell is so not connected whatsoever to Adam Silver or anyone in the NBA. Zero, zilch, nothing. I don't think he gets any info. He acts a lot like he knows something. I don't think he knows anything. Absolutely nothing. And number one, I'll be honest with you, okay? Priority shouldn't be about that for him anyways. It should be a million other things that are happening within our city. He shouldn't be focused on it at all. He always talks about, you get all these briefings from it. I don't think he gets anything. I think he gets nothing. I think his briefing is somebody looks at the internet on Twitter and tells him, well, there's Adam Silver spoke yesterday, and this is what he said. And he acts like he's in the know. I don't think he knows anything. But to pull that crap out in front of everyone, well, that's one of the biggest, dumbest political blunders I have ever seen. I mean, just idiotic. And they practiced this. This is the best part. They rehearsed this. They thought, oh my God, what a great idea this is going to be. Just idiotic. To sit there and play with the emotions of a city who desperately wants this team back. And then I read, I think it was Tim wrote about it, Tim Booth, that apparently Greg Nichols in the front row. I was there that day. Not many people were. I was there that day that Greg Nichols and that council stood up in front of everyone with the fucking smiles on their face as if they'd won something for the city, announcing the deal where they were getting money for selling out the team. They sat up there, those shit-eating grins on their faces, like they had done their constituency a solid, while they just flushed down 40-plus years of history down the drain and took a victory lap for it. I thought that was the dumbest display of politicians I'd ever seen, until I saw that yesterday from Bruce Harrell. Just an idiot. You talk about just not having any sense of how something would play out. And then when you get the reaction, just come on, lighten the mood. That's lightening the mood? Throwing a basketball out there where everyone just gasps like, oh my God, the team's coming back. I mean, just what an absolute tool. Just an absolute tool. I just is one of those things that I thought I've seen a lot back in my day, and boy, that was it. That was a topper for me. That was an absolute topper for me yesterday. Watching Bruce Harrell get up there and look like just an absolute putz. I apologize for the swearing, but I just this whole process has just angered me. It is the fact that we've waited this long for it, to on the heels of yesterday of reading a story that just doesn't appear like, my God, they're any closer. The fact that I watch these other teams in this league just completely be terrible, and cities don't support them, and yet I've got to watch a city that supported it for so damn long not have an NBA team. we're driving in the car the other day, and me and my son are talking. And I said, hey, did you see this story of Cooper Flagg? Cooper Flagg did an interview with the Athletic, and Cooper Flagg said, hey, I may come back for a second year to Duke. My goal is to win a national championship. I may come back. Now, no one believes him. He's going to be the number one pick, and so he can say what he wants to say, but no one believes him that he's going to come out and he'll be the number one pick in the NBA draft. Some have speculated, hey, it's because the Wizards right now would have the best odds to get the number one pick. And no one, including Adam Silver, wants to see Cooper Flagg play for the Washington Wizards. And that's what my son and I were talking about. And I said to him, you know what? The Wizards, they used to be called the Bullets. They changed their name. I said, they have never, ever been good in my entire lifetime, have ever been relevant. Minus like 1 or 2 years. And then you have to go back into the 70s and Bernard King, right? And was it Wes Unseld? I mean, like it's like in my lifetime of watching it, they've never been good. And they're right. And they're not. They've never been good. They're terrible. They're a terrible organization with a terrible fan base that doesn't belong there. They're 9-45. They're 9-45 every year at this point. Okay, terrible. Charlotte Hornets, terrible. Just awful. Minus Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson in a brief time with Muggsy Bogues. Other than that, awful. An awful organization and not an awful city, but just where no support, no nothing. Terrible. LA Clippers, same deal. I don't care what's happened recently. Clippers, same deal. For the most part, have been an irrelevant franchise, the LA Clippers, despite Ballmer owning them. They've been irrelevant. Okay? You just look at some, the Pelicans, irrelevant. It just, I watch some of these teams that get to have some of these cities that get to have a team, but we can't have a team. Yeah, so the Bruce Harrell thing just kind of set me off yesterday. Just an ignorant fool. All right, let's switch gears. We'll get back to that a little bit later in the show. Also, Ryan Divish coming up a little bit later there as well. Rob Staton, though, joining us right now. Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. He joins us every week to talk a little football. Now we're in the offseason, so we talk draft and we talk offseason storylines for the Seahawks. It's brought to you by Superior Linen Service. Family-owned and operated since 1926, committed to delivering the highest quality products and service to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com. Give them a call, 253-383-2636. Stay up to date with Rob's insights, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. I mean, my God, the writing this guy does. The minimum is 2,000 words, I believe, for him. Video content, his YouTube channel, Rob Staton Football. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. Do you have a minimum amount of words that you like to write when you start writing?
No, and I am worried sometimes that the articles are too long. But I think it's a lost art. Like this is just something like locally. So I don't know what it's like in America, but locally we have journalists, and I'm friends with these guys, so I hope they don't mind me saying this, but they will often use the term long read to describe something that's about 900 words long. And I think, I've chucked out a 5,000 word article today on my blog. So it's there. If you want it, if you want long reads, then the blog does that. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I like writing. That's my thing. I enjoy writing and talking about football. There's not that many people to do it with in Rotherham, so I enjoy doing it.
It's we call it over here long form.
Okay.
It's long form. That's like the Athletic. That's how the Athletic sold everybody when they started. Was we're bringing back the long form articles. What I do enjoy, I don't know if they do this over there, but they do it over here, where now when you click on an article, because we're so stupid now, and our attention to pay attention to anything.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, is so minimal. We can't pay attention anymore. It tells you when you click on the article, this is a 2-minute read.
Yeah.
Okay, how about I just read the damn thing, and I'll figure out how long it takes me. I don't need, it's a 5-minute read. I'm out. Can't do 5 minutes today.
That's almost a review of where our culture in the West has gone, isn't it? That you need to be
is.
told that, don't worry, this is not too long.
Exactly. It's not because if somebody clicks on it, you're right, Rob. Well, this is a 25-minute read. I don't have 25 minutes. I just, no, because we're just used to, we're used to just scrolling. like button, scroll. Oh, there's a woman bouncing up and down. Okay, I'll watch that. Yeah, I mean,
I just hope that
what's happening to us.
Exactly. And do you know what? I did. That is one of the reasons why I still love doing the blog, because, it's ad free.
Yeah.
There's usually when you click on something to read these days, it is cluttered with commercials and stuff like that. You are constantly having to click to the next page for the extra click and stuff like that. And the one thing about Seahawks Draft Blog is that there's none of that. And, it doesn't make me any money. It's all free. So, go on there and check it out. And that's the thing. I just want people to read it. It takes a lot of effort. So if you are prepared to give it a go and read a 5,000 word article on draft quarterbacks today, head over to SeahawksDraftBlog.com.
I'm telling you guys, he's got this I said 2,000. You're right. 5,000 on the quarterbacks, defensive line, and offensive line. You've kind of done the same, and we're going to get into that today. Kind of a same 3-part series on all of those 3 positions, and it's a look at not only just the draft, but it's also a look at free agency there as well. So go check it out. We're gonna get into it. I don't know which one do you want to start with? I'll ask you. You wrote them. Do you want to start with the offensive line, defensive line, or the quarterback one?
Yeah, I want to start the quarterback one just because it shifted my thoughts in a different direction. And I've not been the biggest Jackson Dart fan. And after writing this article, I just came away thinking, I've probably been underestimating this guy. Like, I've been trying to work out why the media, and when I say the media, I mean the people who are in the know. Like, Todd McShay is very connected. He knows a lot of people. He's very close to some big names in the NFL. And when he suddenly starts saying, after a pretty unspectacular Senior Bowl from Jackson Dart, that he could be the second quarterback taken, then you kind of listen to all of the different people, and we all know who they are, who have source in the NFL, and they're all kind of saying the same thing. You wonder, where is this coming from? Is it an active agent? Is it just that we've all, I don't know, maybe we're just not seeing what the league is seeing, whatever it is. And then I wrote this article, and so here's the things that Jackson Dart comes out on top on in this class. Big time throws against turnover worthy plays, big time throws off play action, where he is miles ahead of everyone else in this draft and the last draft class as well, which was a good draft class for quarterbacks. He doesn't create pressure against himself. He doesn't create his own sacks. His QBR, which over the last few years has correlated with being a high draft pick, is the same range as Michael Penix Jr. There's good data on his running ability. For example, he had 28 runs of more than 10 yards. That's only 2 fewer than Jalen Milroe, and everybody thinks he's just basically a running quarterback. So he just comes across well in every one of these data points. And it's making me think, actually, maybe I've underrated him. Maybe I've underestimated him. Maybe there's something to this chatter. Maybe he's going to go a lot earlier than I thought.
But you're not the only one that's in this camp. I mean, you look at all these mock drafts, and when people discuss the quarterbacks, he's not being mentioned as one of the first guys off the board. I mean, it's always Cam, it's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders, but Jackson Dart. I mean, he's gaining more attention, Rob. But why though? Because you look at him and you go, well, he kind of looks like the guy getting off the bus, right? When he gets off the bus as a quarterback, you're like, oh, yeah, that's the quarterback. And then the name, it's perfect. It's a perfect quarterback name, by the way. But what is it about maybe the actual play? Right, come on, Jackson Dart. Can there be a better name? Find me a better name than that for playing quarterback.
Yeah.
But what is it about his play? Is it the scheme? What was it that Kiffin ran? I mean, why did it take people so long to warm up to him, you think?
I don't know. I mean, when I watched him, there were a couple of games, and maybe, again, look, you do this when you watch players, you kind of form your opinions early on, and this is why you have to go back and reflect. But you
can't get off those opinions initially, right?
You do, but you don't want to overcorrect, and that's something I'm going to have to be very careful not to do off the back of writing this 5,000 word article, is not overcorrect too much. But there was the Kentucky game, for example, where he didn't get the job done. That he dropped his eyes too quickly. Was trying to take off and run, thinking he's Lamar Jackson, and he was not converting first downs, and it was a problem. Then there's the Florida game late on, where he had a chance to 2 game-winning drives, opportunities, didn't score on either of them, through interceptions on both drives. He had a third overturned, and that cost them a chance to the playoffs. And you think of things like that, and you form bad opinions of Jackson Dart. But then, as I'm writing this article, I'm thinking, okay, but what did Jaden Daniels do last year? He lost 3 games, with LSU. They didn't make the playoffs. He lost to Jackson Dart and Ole Miss last season. So, Bo Nix couldn't beat Washington. They couldn't get over the line against the Huskies. So some of these quarterbacks who then went into the NFL didn't end their college careers in the most perfect way, like Jackson Dart. And then there was the other thing that I found really interesting is I'm not a big analytics guy. Like I'm not completely against analytics.
This is why this whole series was a big step for you, sir. And congratulations for recognizing your weakness.
Yeah, I'm not a big analytics guy. I prefer to sort of watch football and form opinions that way. But I'm not a Luddite. I don't not pay attention to this kind of stuff. But the QBR thing, and it's like a formula. There's a very long article, probably one of mine on ESPN explaining what it is. But it is something that teams have taken interest in. And I had a look, Puck, that if you are a quarterback in college football who has been drafted in the last, I think, 4 drafts, if you've scored an 80 or higher on QBR, I wrote them all down. 12 first-round picks, 3 day 2 picks, and an early 4th-round pick. So if you're scoring an 80 or higher, you are going to be a high draft pick. That's what the data says over the last 4 drafts. You were going to be a high draft pick. And then I look at the 2025 quarterback class, and you have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks who have a plus 80 for QBR. I think we're going to see quarterbacks go a bit earlier than people think. I think we are going to have a middle class. I think by the end of the 4th round, we're going to have seen a decent chunk of quarterbacks taken in this draft.
Who are those 6, you think?
So the 6 that got a plus 80, Cam Ward led the way. So that's probably another validating data point for him being the first quarterback taken. Dylan Gabriel scored very highly. He's short. He struggles to throw to his right side because he's left-handed. I don't think he's going to go that early, but maybe he goes in the 4th round. Curtis Rourke, I think he would have gone in the 4th round, but for the ACL injury. So he might last a bit. Then it's Jackson Dart. Then it's Will Howard. Then it's Jalen Milroe. So they're the players. And then just on the outside of that 80 cutoff, you have Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord. So you actually have the quarterbacks in this draft. They score very highly in this spot. And that's why I think I'm not saying they're going to go in the 1st round. I think there's a decent chance based on this study that we're going to see Ward go first. Then it'll be a battle between Sanders and Dart for 2nd. And then we may have to wait till round 2 or round 3. But I think there will be a run at some point on day 2 where the quarterbacks come off the board.
So did you come away after doing all of this? Did you come away feeling, sounds like you came away feeling better about this class?
I came away thinking this is not a blue chip quarterback class. You do not have top stars. You do not have the Jaden Daniels types, the Drake Mays, people like that. But you have a deeper class than I thought. There is a decent middle class here. And I think there are players in this class who have the opportunity, and this is not recency bias because of what happened a week last Sunday, have got a chance if they get in the right place with the right supporting cast, with the right coach, they could have a Jalen Hurts type career.
Which is solid. more than solid, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it feels like you can find someone later that this would be the year of the draft where the Seahawks do select someone.
I think they're going to take one. I think they're going to draft a quarterback in this draft.
When you wrote this article, did it find you, at least reading it, that maybe you're like, I still like Quinn Ewers, but maybe now with this research, maybe I'm not as warm on him anymore?
There's a lot of difficult data for Quinn Ewers. It's not a great read. If you are, and there are people out there who have, they do like Quinn Ewers,
sure.
And when they read this, they're going to think, oh my word, like there is some bad data. I think the one. And I would encourage people to read it because we probably would spend the rest of the show talking about Quinn Ewers' bad data if we were going to go through everything. But there is one slight thing, and the injuries are both an excuse for Quinn Ewers and also a reason for real concern. So on the one hand, I think that the injury issue is something that, can he stay healthy? I don't know if he can. I'm not confident about that.
Hey, remind me of the injuries again.
He had an abdomen injury and then he had an ankle injury.
Where's your abdomen?
It's kind of sort of here, midriff sort of area.
I'm just going to write that down.
He had a very it was. Here's the thing, Puck, and people have made a good point here. This is not as if he gets hammered in the pocket and has had bad injuries. This really has been. He's thrown a ball and kind of pulled something, and then as he's gone down, he's kind of twisted his own ankle, and all of this stuff. I find that really, really, really strange.
Okay,
but the thing is before the injuries, his QBR was elite. It was 85.4. Then he came back too soon because they got Oklahoma and they had got Georgia, and he wanted to come back and play in those games. He came back way too soon. He had an absolute nightmare against Georgia because he wasn't healthy. At the end of the season, in the final 5 games of the year, his QBR was really good again. So the worst bit of his season, where all of the turnover-worthy plays and the bad stuff happened, was when he wasn't healthy. So on the one hand, like I say, that's an excuse for the bad play. There was some good play, but the problem is anybody who drafts him has got to believe we can keep this guy healthy, and that's really, really hard to do, to say that pre-draft anyway.
Yeah, it's and here's the thing though, when you go back, and this is I think what I love about how you do things, and is that you incorporate a little bit of the analytics and the numbers there, and still use your eyes to evaluate it. And I think that's going to be the thing with a guy like Quinn Ewers. Maybe the stats there don't back it up what he can be, but then the eyes could maybe provide more reasons why you would select him. I think it's going to be a fascinating class. I really is. I can't figure out the quarterback stuff. When I think someone's going to be a hit, they're a dud. When I think someone's going to be a dud, they're a hit. I have no idea. Like, I don't think Cam Ward's going to be any good. And Cam Ward's going to get picked number 1. He's going to be a star. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be the best of them. Shedeur Sanders is going to be out of the league in 2 years playing in the XFL. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I didn't think Jaden Daniels is going to be good, and he's a stud. So it is, my old good friend, still a good friend, ex-coworker Hugh Millen used to say this all the time. He's like, you couldn't pay enough money to someone to evaluate this position, because it's simply the hardest thing to do in sports. Nothing compares to the evaluation of a quarterback and drafting of a quarterback. Nothing is a bigger crapshoot than that. He's right.
He's
so
absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. And over the years, you kind of do it. Ever since they traded Russell Wilson, I've made it sort of a mission to watch every game that every notable quarterback plays, to have the best amount of information to hand to sort of be able to talk about them. And it's so hard. Like you can focus on traits. You can focus on, what people say about them. Like there's one quarterback, like people, talk about Will Levis. I had the opportunity to interview Will Levis and speak to people at Kentucky about Will Levis, and then all of them spoke with just the most highest glowing praise. Unbelievable athlete. Did some good stuff at times for Kentucky. Had all of the tools, but he's not worked out because he can't stop making boneheaded mistakes, and he's quite robotic and stiff despite the athleticism, and he's bulked up too much. And that's such a hard thing. The difference between him and, say, Justin Herbert isn't that much in terms of the physical tools and the character, but the performance on the field is very, very different. So it's very, very difficult to sort of judge who is good. Nobody could have said watching Wyoming that Josh Allen was going to be Josh Allen.
Exactly.
If everyone knew Lamar Jackson was going to be MVP level player, he never lasts to the end of the first round. Yeah. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's fun. It's fun to talk about it and try and work it out.
It is. It's extremely fun. I love it. I mean, I there's at times that I enjoy the draft sometimes more than football. I love the NFL draft. I love all drafts. I think we talked about this. I talked about this yesterday. I'm a huge NBA fan, and I want the Sonics to come back and all that. But I loved. Now, not so much anymore because the league has changed, or the college basketball has changed so much and all that. I still love the NBA draft. Loved it. You'd watch these guys for 3 or 4 years play college ball, and then the lottery, and you'd watch, and like, I would just sit there and watch it all the time. The NFL is the only one that's really like that anymore. Major League Baseball is not a thing. You don't know any of the players because no one watches college baseball for the most part. And then they're drafting a bunch of high school kids. It's the same thing with like hockey. I don't think hockey's that enjoyable to watch the draft. You don't know any of these guys, and a lot of them are coming over from Europe and all that. The NFL, though, you know all the players for the most part because they've stayed in school for 3+ years and generally play for some of the bigger programs, and you'll watch it every Saturday. So it's you feel like you know all these guys, and it's fun. It's a fun day. It's a fun 3 days. So. And the quarterback is always the sexiest position. You did the same stuff you did on the quarterbacks. You did on the D-line and offensive line. Dealer's choice. You wrote it. Which way do you want to go now?
Well, I'll go with offensive line just because I think that's the one that most people. I mean, look, the quarterbacks are interested to talk about, but I think most people are very interested in the offensive line and how the Seahawks repair that. And I think so doing this, I did it for free agents and I did it also for the draftable players.
Right.
And I think what is pretty clear is that there's one guy and we talked about him in the past, who stands head and shoulders above all of the others in terms of you have got, if you were going to really fix this offensive line, I think they've got to go after Drew Dalman. He has played the most snaps at a high level in the zone blocking scheme. He is a legit top 5 center in the league. He has all of the physical tools and the testing at the combine that you need for a top center. And he has gone on to have a great time in Atlanta, and they've got to try and get him. The problem is that there's probably about 25 teams who are going to want to try and sign this guy. And it's how do you convince him to come to Seattle, especially if the Niners are interested in him, knowing he was born in California and he went to Stanford. That these are the kind of challenges. And if you don't get Drew Dalman, Puck, there isn't a lot of... short of going and getting Trey Smith, it's kind of those two guys. Once they're not available anymore, you run a very dangerous possibility here of throwing bad money at average players. Mm-hmm. So I think it perhaps puts a lot of pressure on the draft. I think that they will shoot their shot with some of these offensive linemen. They might have to go and find specific zone blocking players. For example, Ben Barch could be a bit of a dark horse from the Niners, somebody who just looks like he is ready to play in this system. The Niners have earmarked him to replace Aaron Banks. You might be banking on that number 18 pick. If you're going to get an injection of talent for this offensive line, you might be hoping at 18, your Tyler Bucky, your Kelvin Banks, Armand Membu last to 18.
Yeah. Do we get a sense of the versatility with these offensive linemen in this draft? Talking about tackles who can move inside. Is it when you look at these guys, do they have the ability to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what this draft is really about. There's hardly any tackles. All of the tackles pretty much have to kick inside.
Okay.
It's just a long list of guys with short arms who are going to have to move inside. And
they got short arms.
Yeah, you'd be ideal to be in this draft class to kick inside. How are you in the zone blocking scheme?
Wonderful. It's many people have seen me around the neighborhood, Rob. Really a zone scheming type of.
You got to get into the second level, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big second level walking the dogs. Yeah.
Well, there are definitely a lot of guys like that, and that's the good news. Is that I think, and I've been trying to make this point. It's a hard sell to Seahawks fans because. I feel like they've heard this for a long time. But let's just say worst case scenario. You don't get Drew Dalman. You don't get Trey Smith. Let's say that you don't get one of those three guys I've just mentioned at 18. The one good thing about this draft is that you have got good zone blocking offensive linemen who are going to be available rounds 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5. And some of the best zone blocking linemen in this draft, players who I really like, Puck, who I'd get on the table right now and stand up if there was enough room and go and jump up and down on it for him. The Clay Webbs from Jacksonville State. I really like Clay Webb. I really like Connor Colby at Iowa. I really like Luke Kandra at Cincinnati. These are players that people don't really talk about. They fit this scheme. And you can get these guys later on. So all I'm saying is, even if the worst case scenario happens and they have to wait to round 3 onwards to go and try and get some talent into this offensive line, I still think they can do it.
The announcement came out today. Just speaking of the free agency and money, the cap teams have been informed the cap is going to fall in the range of 277 to 281 million dollars. So it's going to be way up from last year's 255. It just keeps going up and up. I think it's over. It's damn near 55 million. I think over the last 2 years. Does this change their thinking at all, or not? And what decisions you anticipate coming up here when it comes to the cap for the Seahawks?
Well, it's approximately $7 million more cap room than everyone was projecting. That's the first thing that I noticed. As soon as I saw this tweeted just before I jumped on with you, I went on over the cap, and I think they were saying it was 7 million less than they're now projecting. I think it was like 272. Oh. It's now 279. So the Seahawks have got a bit of extra cap space to play with, which is a good thing. Of course, everybody else has a bit of extra cap space to play with as well, which is the bad thing. It's not exclusive to Seattle.
I think, should be.
Yeah, I think I'm just hoping that because they've had pretty much since August to have a think about what they're going to do with this offensive line, that they're ready to go. That when they get to that combine next week, they are going to schmooze like John Schneider has never schmoozed before. They have got to get into those agents. They have got to sell them the dream. They have got, and I know that he was sort of pouring a bit of cold water on this idea of going out and spending last week when he did his interview. They've got to try and find a way to get someone like Drew Dominant. It just sets it off. Like if you can add, because Christian Haynes, good zone blocking, great when he was in college. If you can get him going with a new staff, if you can keep Abe Lucas healthy, if Charles Cross can take this long-awaited step forward, and then if you could go and get a good, player at 18. Plug him in at left guard and put Drew Dolman in at center. That's a line. That's a decent looking line. So it's not impossible, but I think we'd all be just a bit reassured if they could go and land someone. And if it can't be Drew Dolman, at least go and get, Ryan Kelly.
Well, it's you go back and we've discussed this before. You go back to what Clint Kubiak said in his press conference. Actually, was with Softy that, hey, we need an elite center.
Yeah.
To run this offense. They don't have that on their roster. They need to go get it. And he would fit, and Dahlman would fit that bill for them.
He would. And the other thing I would say on centers is I always overrate centers in the draft. Like I always have them graded too high. And then it gets to the draft, and I'm always a bit surprised that they're still there in like round 3, round 4. And I have Jake Majors at Texas graded very highly, the center there. Nobody else is great. Like I just saw Lance Zelian's got him round 4, round 5 range. And all of the other centers are in that. Jared Wilson's in that range, even lower. So the good thing is we're going to get to the combine next week. We're going to see these guys test. Hopefully they'll do everything. The agility testing is big for centers. Hopefully they'll do all of this. It might be that a good young center is available round 4, round 5 for the Seahawks. And I don't want to throw a good young center out, as a rookie, especially if he's going to have to do the line calls. But Ryan Kelly as a 1-2 year stopgap, and then a draft to develop a younger guy, which is what the Eagles did with Cam Jurgens with Jason Kelsey. You can sell me on that idea. That's perfectly fine if Dolman's not available.
Yeah, I would love to find a center. God, it's just been too long. I mean, Max Unger. I mean, it's just too long since they've not had a dominant offensive lineman or dominant center there along that offensive line. All right. Let's save the defensive line for next week.
Okay.
But I would go read SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Rob he's got 3 pieces that are just up right now. Defensive line, offensive line, quarterbacks, talking about free agency and draft. And I'm just going to tell you, grab a very large cup of coffee, okay? or over there, a cup of tea, and sit down, kick your feet up, carve out some time, and it's okay not to look at your phone for a little bit, okay? You're going to be okay. Nothing's going to happen on TikTok. Nothing's going to happen. You don't got to worry about it. Sit back and read a long-form piece, which used to just be a normal piece on those 3 positions. It's great work, man. You do a fabulous job. I love having you on every week. I love that you do it. You continue to do it. Love your passion for the sport. Also, what do you got up on the YouTube channel right now as well?
YouTube channel. So I have done an interview with Ty Robinson, which people should go and check out, and some stuff about fixing the offensive line. Got some other stuff planned. Combine week's massive week next week. Can I set everyone some homework? Like, I don't want to give you chores to do.
Do I have to do it? I've got to do it too.
You can if you want.
Okay.
Just if we're going to talk about defensive lineman next week, just save some time between now and next week, everyone, and go and watch Braden Swinson, the LSU edge rusher.
Braden Swinson,
because too many people are sleeping on him, and I think he's going to go. He could be a really good option for the Seahawks. So I think he's just a good name to go and check out before next week.
Okay, will do. Thanks, Rob. We'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.
There he is, Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. God, what a gem! What a gem. We didn't find him; he found us. He's great. Love having him on every week. I hope you guys. Listen, not everyone's got to like everything that you do or listen to, and you can disagree with us and Rob, but I'm telling you, one thing you cannot debate with Rob is that he doesn't put in the homework and he's not prepared. And the other thing you cannot deny is his passion for the sport. And I'm telling you, 3 pieces, damn near 5,000 words on each. And it's just incredible. And just proud, just happy that we have him on each week. Again, SeahawksDraftBlog.com. YouTube channel's Rob Staton Football. You can follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. His weekly appearance is brought to you by Superior Linen Service, family owned and operated since 1926, committed to delivering the highest quality products and services to the greater Puget Sound area. Get your free quote today at suplinen.com. Give him a call, 253-383-2636. Before we get to Ryan Divish, do I need to finish any thoughts on the just idiot that was Bruce Harrell? I don't know. I don't know if I want to finish him up. Yes, I know the Bullets were good. They were good 50 years ago. I know they played the Sonics in the finals. But I'm just telling you. You want me to pull up what they've done since then? Because I can. And then my point is, they have been irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant in basketball. They just have. Because I'm going to look it up and just tell you how many losing seasons this organization has had. They had like one good run. And again, that was in the 70s. That was in, let's see, what was it? 78 and 79. Okay? Other than that, terrible. Just a terrible, terrible organization. Awful. Awful, awful, awful. So, again, I know that they played there in the 70s. All right? I'm well aware of that. Pelicans, terrible. Yes, Joel, I did swear a lot. I'll put $20 in the swear jar. I appreciate that. He just crossed the line with that stupid stunt yesterday. Just awful. Just absolutely idiotic on Bruce. The best thing that Bruce Harrell could do right now is come out soon and just say, you know what? Because we all screw up. We all screw up. Just come out and say, you know what? Dumb. Stupid. Shouldn't have said it. I'm better than that. I grew up. That's the thing that's so dumb about what he did yesterday. Bruce Harrell's from here. Played, he's a sports legend in high school. Grew up with the Sonics. Went to UW. Played football. Like, he gets it. He gets it. He gets athletics and sports more than any mayor has ever gotten it before. Ever. And yet he pulled that stunt. It's just stupid. Mark wants to know, where's your abdomen? WTF. Come on. Mark, it's called sarcasm. Someone asked what the hat is. What the N is for. I don't know. Maybe it's got to be maybe a surprise for everyone. I mean, I don't know if I want to give him free plug for what it is. I don't know if I should. I mean, he may be watching a little bit later, or you never know. I don't know if I want to give him a free plug, but you know what? I'll do it anyways. It is a buddy of mine, Tony. It's his company, his family's company, the Napoleon Extra Virgin. He likes to stress to it's extra virgin olive oil. That's what it is. It's just his company. That's the hat. It's a good looking hat, though, isn't it? Huh? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Nutritional facts of the Napoleon olive oil. 1 tablespoon, 130 calories. Look at that. Huh? Look at about, you want 1903, these guys? 4 generations going strong. And eventually the guy that's running it now, or a part of it, he'll run it in the ground. Just kidding. That's the hat, in case you were wondering. All right, Ryan Divish. We catch up with Divish every single week, talking baseball. As I've mentioned before, the full 50-minute podcast with Divish, both video and audio, available to Puck's Posse members. Sign up today. Don't sign up. It's okay. Whatever you'd like to do. $5 a month is all it costs you. You can also sign up for a year, which gives you a discount. In addition to that, we've got other VIP content behind there as well, including Dane Brugler. I'm going to give you a little snippet of Brugler coming up a little bit later as well. Dane, which we did give a free version up on YouTube as well of Dane Brugler, but the part 1 of a 7-part series with Dane Brugler leading up to the NFL draft is a part of the Puck's Posse membership there as well. But we do Divish every week, 50 minutes, but we give you about almost a 20-minute free version every single week there as well. We start out talking about Cal Raleigh. Why has there been no contract talk with Cal Raleigh? And we also wrap it up with Dan Wilson, expectations of Dan Wilson going into his first full season as the skipper of the Mariners. Cal for a second. Why has there not been more talks about a contract with him? Why is it so quiet on that front, especially after he switched agents?
I don't know. I asked him about it, and Kyle just says, like, I'm open to listen. Just come with a real offer. I mean, I don't know. Like, on some level, the pessimist, and you talk to some guys around baseball, is like, oh, they're just going to mule him and run him into the ground over the next few years, and then say, and then trade him when he doesn't want to resign. And, others are thinking, well, they're not in a position financially to make that investment. And then the people like you who wear the armadillo helmets will say the reason they haven't done this is because they already have Julio, and this ownership group eventually wants to sell within the next 3 years, and that's why they haven't made another major investment.
What I don't get. I'm dumb. I don't get the armadillo reference.
So it's like, I don't remember. I think it was on the Dukes of Hazzard remake. This guy wore an armadillo helmet. I made out of a shell because he thought the FBI was stealing his brainwaves. So it's like the tinfoil hat.
Okay. You think my suggestion that they could contemplate selling the team is like a given I'm just wondering, they don't spend any. I'm just saying that the signs of a team that wants to sell, they are showing signs of it.
A little bit, yeah. But given what the going rate for a franchise is and what you would make, every team should consider selling it.
100%.
I mean,
they'd be fools not to.
But no, I don't think so. I think because they're not operating. I mean, the only structural issue that is problem for the ownership group is the RSN situation, and that'll get figured out in the next few years. And I can talk about that too. But
sure.
That'll get figured out in the next few years or so. Some stability will come to it. But yeah, I mean, you look at the lease with the city, the upkeep of T-Mobile, no park has aged better than T-Mobile. Maybe Coors, they're about the same. They've aged well. It's not like the Diamondbacks who are looking to redo their whole stadium here. You look at they invested money back in the day in the Dominican Summer League in their academy in the Dominican. That's state of the art. They just, were able to, they're just unable to, do some renovations down here at the spring training complex for very minimal money. They didn't go the expensive route but they put in a lot of new stuff. So it looks not like a junior college back there. They've done a lot of stuff to make this more attractive for players and to make it more sustainable for success. So it's and then you're making money even without investing. They don't have to reinvest their money back into reinvest outside money or their own money back into the organization because it makes enough money to sustain itself.
Right.
And I think so when you're operating on that level, you're like, okay, well, why would we sell if we're always going to be sustainable? And and you say what you want about Jerry and the 54% mindset, but what Scott Hunter has done in the draft and what they've done from a developmental aspect, they're always, like I don't think we'll see the year where they lose 100 games again for quite a while, because like they put enough pieces together, like it's self-sustaining in a lot of ways. You watch these prospects that are coming up, and you watch, like I'm watching, Logan Evans throw, and it's 97, and he throws 7 different pitches, and you're like, well, he'll just bump right in. You watch Laz Montez and Colt Emerson and all these guys work around there, and they look like grown-ass men at 18 years, 19 years old. You're like, okay, like there are pieces coming. This isn't like when, in 07 where they hitched their wagon to Uni Betancourt and Jose Lopez and didn't have anybody in the minors to challenge them. No, like they have real guys. Like Colt Emerson will replace JP Crawford in 2 years, is my guess. Yeah. JP Crawford's contract will be up, and Colt will take over, and the Mariners will be happy. I mean, Cole Young, who looks like a kid out of Super Troopers right now with his mustache, will be the starting second baseman next year. I have no doubt in my mind, unless they trade him. Those two guys will be, in their lineup next year, or in their lineup at some point next year. Colt probably won't debut till later in the year, but Cole Young is fully expected to be the starting second baseman by next season, and he could be by the end of this season if he plays well in spring training.
You brought up the TV stuff, the RSN, the streaming stuff. I talked about this last week that I'm pretty confident that they're going to have a streaming aspect, to this season, whether it's ready for opening day or not. What are you hearing? I know Kevin Martinez was on with Softy. I think he hinted at the same thing. What are you hearing on the streaming front? What are you hearing on the just the future of what their broadcasting is going to be for this season and then beyond?
So they are trying to get what they call direct to fan streaming, or direct streaming, without a third party, like Root, going through Root. I think even if they were to get a streaming product this year, it's still got the Root label on it. You see the Root thing. It might even be an app that you have to go through Root, but you would pay a fee. The problem is the distribution contracts with Comcast, Spectrum, Fubo. Those all have writers in those contracts that the Mariners cannot do direct to fan streaming. They have to go through them in some way. They have to be available to them. So that's what they're trying to work through. So they're negotiating with these cable distributors about, hey, look, we want to do this, and you're putting us on these higher tier anyway, so we should be able to do this. We want to renegotiate the contracts. We want to figure out a way to do this. And that's what Martinez has been working on. It's been, from everything I've heard, it's been a focus for them going in, even starting last year, is how do they get direct to consumer or direct to fan streaming without having to go through an Xfinity app or the Fubo app or whatever. And those contracts are the sticking point. And when those contracts are up and all that other stuff is going to be an issue. I think the Mariners also know, though, that like with their fan base, and given the age of it, because Mabel and Yakima loves the Mariners, they are willing to pay the cable fees just to have the Mariners. And so, like, you have to assess that, too. They can't go to full platform streaming, they have to find a way. So until they can reach agreements with these cable rights or these cable companies, these distribution contracts, I don't think you're going to see that. But moving towards MLB for the production side, which, while probably might cheapen it a little bit and has cost some people some jobs, that is another step towards making that possibility. The reason, like, the teams like the Cardinals and Twins and stuff, is they don't have RSN contracts per se. And then when Diamond Sports had to rework all their contracts and stuff like that with these teams, they were able to negotiate a straight to rights deal. Whether, like, even if I think the Mariners could work out a deal where they went through Amazon as a third party, they would do it. They can't do it right now and stand alone because of Comcast, because of Spectrum. I don't know what else.
What do you have an idea? But the idea behind this would be for people that do not have cable, do not have Fubo or YouTube TV. They would simply just purchase a streaming app through that would be provided by Root, so they could watch the games. Is there any talk or number being floated out how much it would cost?
No, but my guess would be 150 or something. I think the Twins is 100
I think most of
150.
most of those, like the Guardians, Twins, Diamondbacks, Cardinals, about $99, $100.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's the thing. Even if they were, like, say they were able to negotiate a fee where you kick back money to Comcast and these other rights distributors, then, you know, or like you can get one of them to say, if they can get Comcast to just put Root on their what is it, the X Anywhere app, you know,
Sure.
so that they could get that. If they could find that fee, then they would do that. I mean, like, you know, would Comcast accept a fee where you just pay to go through their app where they still have their commercials loading but you just pay the rights fee for Root? I don't know if they do that. That's what they're running into. And that's the biggest thing is, like, you have these other people that are still trying to make money off the Mariners broadcast, and they don't, you know, the previous contracts have all been negotiated that any broadcast of Mariners has to have some kickback rights to them, and that's the holding point.
The Mitch Garver, what is Mitch Garver? It's a weird transition going from TV to Mitch Garver, but yeah, I wanted to come back to Mitch Garver because you had mentioned him. He'd been honest at the end of last season, just about the struggles he went through, you know, physically, but more mentally. What does he look like so far in camp?
I think he's in a pretty good space. I mean, he's, you know, like last year, you know, he was very open and gregarious and talkative early, and then when he struggled, you know, he's kind of quiet. We didn't see him as much. You know, he's been kind of that same guy this year, fresh start, fresh outlook. I think also just kind of like the idea that, like, hey, I'm not the guy that has to come in and help this offense and fix everything and be this middle of the order presence. Just come in and play and perform, and we'll figure out how you're going to use you. I think is pretty good for him. You know, like right now he's the backup catcher, and Dan Wilson has mentioned that they'll use two catchers. You know, they'll DH Cal some, and they may DH Mitch some. And like DePoto said the same thing. It's basically whoever is producing, whoever they think is producing at the time is going to get that DH spot when Cal's catching. So whether it's Mitch Garver, Mitch Haniger, or if they want to put Solano and Raleigh in the lineup at the same time, they're going to do it. You know, like, to me, if the one thing I'm looking at this, Raleigh needs plate appearances. I mean, and they need to find ways to get him on the field because he's one of their better power hitters and he can do damage. So they got to find ways to do it. And whether that's at times getting him in right field or left field, you know, doing that, just he shouldn't sit for many days, because even if it's like a lefty that isn't overpowering, Luke's numbers against lefties aren't pretty, but they're more effective than a lot of other guys. And like even DePoto said that it isn't going to be just a straight platoon. There'll be days when Luke's in there at first base against lefties. One thing is too, though, I know Luke doesn't believe first base is his best position. He's much more comfortable in the outfield.
Okay.
But he's getting better there, you know? So I think that's kind of the weird thing that they're at is how do they do DH, how do they do second base, and how that affects everything.
He's athletic enough though, Div, that he's got a good chance to be, I think, a pretty good first baseman.
Oh yeah, and like, you know, him and Perry Hill spent quite a bit of time together, you know, and so
how's Perry's gut looking?
It's special. Yeah, I mean, like Perry was, and I got a story on Perry doing yoga. Perry doing yoga this offseason because
I got it. Wait, is that you wrote a story on it?
I haven't yet, but like he told Tyler Locklear that he needed to do yoga in the offseason because, you know, Locklear's big, you know, fullback linebacker looking guy, who's too stiff,
more flexible.
So he wanted to be more flexible, and so, but he said, I'll do it if you do it, and we'll report back, because Perry said, I would never make my guys do a conditioning that I won't do myself. And so him and Locklear both did yoga once or twice a week and reported. And so, and like Locklear is telling me how much better he feels. But I'm just trying to envision Perry, you know, in a room of like 40 women. He didn't do the Bikram hot yoga. You know, I think that's, but like he's a character, you know, and he has
Can you see him in Downward Dog and
oh man,
he has this pose.
He has this great line, you know how he yells and stuff, you know, stop and stuff. But like when he's working with the young kids, like he was yelling at Arroyo and Colt Emerson, see what happens when you actually listen. And I was like, I feel like you can use that for your team. Like, see what happens when you're talking to your son and he doesn't like lift his back foot up on a swing and, you know, pimp a homer or whatever. Like, see what happens when you listen. That's
what this idiot did yesterday. I just idiot. We brought in an older kid who was with us last year, but he can't play Little League. So we brought him in because he throws really hard.
Yeah.
And so he's a really good pitcher. I said, I want you to pitch to them tonight, just, so they can see it. And because he's not, and pitch from 46.
Yeah.
You're pitching from 50 now, but it's going to come in faster. They'll never see anyone as hard as you this year. So we're just doing BP. So he's striking everybody out for the most part. I think one kid got a hit. So my kid comes up, gets him on 2 strikes. What does he do? Because they're like best friends. He wants bragging rights. He drops down a bunt.
Of course he does.
And I'm like, he's like, it's a hit. It's broke up his no-hitter. I said, do you realize, you putz, if you did that in a game, what would happen? Like, if it goes foul, you understand. Well, but it didn't go foul. I go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's like Robles stealing home with 2 outs and 2 strikes.
Exactly. He's 100%.
I'll have you know that was the only time Robles got thrown out on a stolen base attempt last year.
Oh, what? Really?
Crazy? Yeah. That's a crazy stat, isn't it?
Yeah. What did you make of Turner's? Is that what you thought Justin Turner was going to get in free agency?
What did he get, 4?
No, I didn't get more than that. I think he got like 6.
Yeah. I mean, he was asking for that much, so
yeah.
I thought so. I think that's
$6 million bucks.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Mariners didn't sign him, is because they weren't going to go that much.
Hey, how do you think Dan Wilson? A couple more things. Dan Wilson, year 2. How do you think it's 21-13 last year? Where do you think he gets even better at maybe in year 2? And now that he's got kind of actually really year 1 for him, now that he's got his feet wet.
I don't know that he's going to run a game all that differently, like from a reliever standpoint and stuff like that. It so much is like planned out pregame, like with numbers and data, and they have the numbers. He may gut feel it more, but like that's what people don't get, is like Scott was a gut feel guy more than people thought. And I think the one thing with Dan is like maybe the playing time for starters, or who's going good, might stay. He might be resistant to platoon every once in a while more, maybe, but I think Dan and Scott both have the same philosophy of letting the players be themselves, trusting the players, and kind of going from that regard. So I don't know that there's going to be a significant difference. I guess probably less meetings and that kind of stuff. We're not seeing like they don't have the 3-point shooting contest and some of that stuff. Maybe it's a little more old school, but at the same time, they're out there kind of doing some fun stuff too. I mean, but the other day I posted a video of Tony Arnrich throwing the exercise ball at catchers while they're trying.
Yeah, that was a great drill.
And like people are like sitting there talking like, oh, that's stupid. We did that in college, except for my coach threw a tackling dummy at me while I was doing it. And he didn't tell me the first time it was happening. I'm sitting there and they're hitting fungos from the outfield. I'm going to catch it, and all of a sudden something just whacks me upside the head, and I go down and I look, and it's one of those shell tackling dummies.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great drill.
Because there's stuff going on, and it doesn't allow you to focus. And I mean, it's like, this is kind of boring down here, and there's a lot of down. You got to make it fun for these guys sometimes. They're still kids at heart, and you're playing a game, so you got to make it competitive. Because I think another thing is, and that's one thing, I think the biggest thing with Dan is and I know Scott preached it, but I think Dan will be, there might be more consequences from getting away from it, is preaching the idea of team success over individual success, and so on, situational hitting. If you're up there and it looks like you're just trying to hit a tank, and when all you're supposed to do is move the runner over by hitting a ground ball to the right side of the field, or you're up there and you have a poor plan or a poor attack, with runner on third, less than 2 outs, and you punch out, I think you'll see repercussions. It might not happen right away, but you do that enough, like he may say, look, you know what, we're going to go with somebody else who's going to help us win the game more. And I think that's the one thing we've heard a lot of that from the players as well. Is just like, look, we missed it by 1 game, and we left a lot of games out on the field last year. So we need to do something different mentally to know that it's not acceptable to fail and have a bad process and failure. And I mean, some of that may just be the maturity of this team when these guys getting older, but the recognition of, and I think Dan, even last year, Dan wouldn't say anything about the incident with Randy Rosarena, and I can't remember when he got hit, staring guys down and all that stuff.
Right.
But I watched him go up to Randy and kind of just say, like, we don't do that. You're putting your teammates in a bad spot. There's better ways to handle that.
Full episode of Ryan Divish, the podcast, available again for Puck's Posse members. That I just gave you there is about a 20-minute free version of the full 50-minute show. So if you'd like to watch it, sign up to be a Puck's Posse member. You will get the full 50-minute video. It goes to YouTube. It's just there for Puck's Posse members. Sign up at pucksports.com. Top of the webpage will take you there. Also, the QR code on your screen. If you're watching right now, you can just simply take a picture of that. And again, for just $5 a month, you will get the full Ryan Divish podcast, along with the support of all things that we do here at pucksports.com. And also at the Daily Puck Drop and all of our guests. It also includes episode 1 of our 7-part NFL Draft Countdown series with Dane Brugler from The Athletic, the author of The Beast, that comes out every year. Episode 1 is up there right now. Episode 2 coming up there in a few weeks there with Dane Brugler. And then also, if you are just listening live right now or back on the podcast, simply just go to pucksports.com. And the top of the webpage, as I mentioned before, will sign up there and will get you the full audio version of the Ryan Divish podcast there via Patreon. You can also just simply search Patreon/PuckSports, but I feel that pucksports.com is simply the easiest way to go and sign up to become a member. I promise you, if you sign up, you'll not regret it. You certainly get more than your money's worth for $5 a month, for sure. Yeah, if you have any issues, though, financially, send me an email, puck@pucksports.com. I agree with those in the chat. Bill, you mentioned it. Divish needs to wipe the Vaseline off his camera lens. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. He was doing it outside. Internet maybe a little bit slow. Is someone trying to use a cowbell behind Divish during the show? Maybe. The birds, yes. Birds were everywhere, as Dan pointed out during the segment. Love hearing the birds in the background. Makes me look forward to spring. Very Masters-like, wasn't it? It was very Masters-like. Big thanks to Divish. Joins us every week. The Ryan Divish podcast, again, brought to you by Chalet Bowl. Big thank you to Reggie Frederick and his family. Oldest operating bowling alley in Washington State. Serving the community since 1941. Delivering top-notch customer service. Unique 12-lane experience. ChaletBowl.com. Book your next reservation. Experience the best in local fun. So if you want that, sign up to be a Puck's Posse member. And again, thank you for whether if you don't sign up or not. Thank you for watching and listening to this daily and taking in all the content. I know you got a lot of choices out there for your sports entertainment content. The fact that you make this a destination, some of you every day or every now and again, appreciate it very much. It means the world to the entire crew over here at pucksports.com, which is me and the wife and then the dogs. That's really what it is. Hey, some house cleaning thing reminders before we get to Hey What the Puck. Friday will be off because of the Ballard gymnastics team is in the state championship. So we'll do a shorter show tomorrow, probably about an hour or so on Thursday because it's day 1 of it. And then day 2 it happens. Their event starts early in the morning. So it's like at 10 o'clock or at 9 o'clock where it starts. So I'll be out. I'll be at Sammamish High School watching Ballard Gymnastics try to take home their very first state championship. All right, we wrap it up with Hey What the Puck. Brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. The North Seattle franchise. Thank you to Trent and everyone that works over there at Restoration One for being a great partner here at Puck Sports. All right, wrap it up with this. Something that Divish said there in the beginning of our conversation about the Mariners is the real concern that I have and that I think a lot of Mariner fans feel when it comes to Cal Raleigh. You know, Cal Raleigh changing agents, going from Scott Boras to, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure who he's represented by now, but it's not Scott Boras. I think for a lot of us signaled maybe a change in how Cal Raleigh viewed the organization and viewed negotiations moving forward. But since moving and changing on there from Scott Boras to new representation, we've heard no movement at all on a new contract there for Cal. And even Divish saying there that, yeah, I brought it up to Cal, asked him about it. And Cal just said, hey, I just want a legitimate, serious offer. So when he said that, it got me thinking that still has not been made a serious offer to him. And we know all the financial issues that this organization has put on themselves. They have the self-governor on when it comes to spending money. It is really disappointing, though, that this organization doesn't value someone like him and are willing to just continue to let him play out on a contract that when he does get older, simply with the amount of games and effort that he puts in, he's eventually will break down. And by the time he can really, truly hit a big payday, they'll say, okay, we'll move on. We've said this many times before, and we'll repeat it till we're blue in the face. This is exactly the type of guy that you invest in with your money. You may have reservations about other players, whether it will make them complacent. Maybe they won't work as hard anymore. Not him. Not Cal Raleigh. Julio Rodriguez is the best player on this team. There is zero debate. The heartbeat of this team is Cal Raleigh. And they need to take care of him now. And they need to make him a serious offer. You can't lose someone like Cal Raleigh. So they need to get it done and put a real serious offer in front of that young man so he can sign a deal and remain a Seattle Mariner for the majority of his career. All right, that's Hey What the Puck, brought to you again by Restoration One in North Seattle. Restoration Company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Big thank you. Thank you for all watching and listening today. Thank you to all the sponsors. Limbeck Lumber, first and foremost. Superior Linen Service, Chalet Bowl, Georgetown Brewery. Hey, Georgetown Brewery, check out their new tavern beer at your local bar. Smooth, easy drinking, domestic style lager. Remember when we used to make those in the state? Yeah. No longer from one company. But this company makes one. That's why it's called the Tavern Beer from Georgetown Brewery. Visit georgetownbeer.com. Also, Restoration One. Today's Daily Puck Drop, as always, up on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. Also, find the Daily Puck Drop on all your favorite podcast platforms and at pucksports.com. When you're at pucksports.com, as we've mentioned before, please sign up, become a member of the Pucks Posse. $5 a month. You support all the free content and VIP and exclusive content that we do up at pucksports.com, including the full Ryan Divish podcast of the Seattle Times, cover the Mariners, and, of course, starting this week and continuing throughout till the NFL Draft, our NFL Draft coverage with Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Check it out again at pucksports.com. All right, we'll see you again tomorrow for Thursday's show. Just a reminder, no live show on Friday. We'll kind of do a best of the week on Friday. I'm going to go watch the Ballard Gymnastics team bring home their first state championship. All right, but we will see you tomorrow for a live show on Thursday. So until then, as always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rob you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!